Hi everyone, and welcome to this Google Digital Garage training session on how to keep your family safe online. My name's Alison. I'm a trainer for Google's free skills training program, the Google Digital Garage. I'm an experienced digital marketing trainer and specialist, as well as having a background in being a mum, which is probably going to be helpful during this webinar. I'm also joined today by Annie, who is our moderator. Annie is also a Google Digital Garage coach and a fantastic support here today in the chat. She's going to be interacting with you and answering some of your questions in the chat there. You can identify Annie by her name as well as the little blue spanner that you will see next to her name. So just before we start, I just wanted to call out a few things that are going to help you out today. Firstly, if you're having any trouble viewing this webinar, please just try refreshing your page right now. Often switching it off and back on again does the trick. If you want to join in the instant chat today, and this is an interactive session, so we really hope you do, you will need a YouTube account, and you can set one up very easily by clicking in the box on the right up there. We'll be pausing throughout the session to answer any more complex questions from the chat, so please fire away questions throughout, and I will be asking for some comments as we go through about your own experiences, so please do make use of this interactive feature. We're live with you this evening, and we really like to get your input. I'd also just like to let you know that we're running this Google Digital Garage virtual training as part of a broader offering of courses. So if you'd like to check out our schedule of up and coming webinar training, please do the information on this in the description below, which will link you through to our website. Okay, so that's the housekeeping done. Let's get started on Keep Your Family Safe Online. So we're delivering this webinar today in partnership with Internet Matters. Internet Matters expertise and focus on guiding parents through many issues they can experience when using the internet makes our two organisations natural partners to create and deliver this course. Internet Matters is a not-for-profit organisation that has a simple purpose: to empower parents and carers to keep children safe in the digital world. And today we're going to educate you a bit about web safety and what that means for your family, so you can feel confident about your family being online while staying safe and secure. So this session today is aimed at everyone who's interested in keeping the children they care for safe. So when I say parents, I mean all carers, parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, teachers, and anyone else who feels they need support and guidance in this area. We have 3 parts to today's session. So we're going to cover firstly the introduction to online safety. So discuss the power of the internet and the key areas of concern that many parents have. We're then going to talk about keeping your children safe. So diving into those specific risks that children face. Introduce some tools that will enable you to proactively combat these, and great conversation starters and parenting tips to perhaps try out. And then finally, we're going to look at talking about online safety with your children. We're going to offer some tips about how to proactively have a conversation about internet safety with your children, how to build an open dialogue with your child about what they're actually doing online. So as you can see, there's a lot to get through in this session. Let's kick off with the first part and introduce online safety. So, to establish an understanding of the online safety landscape and what the key concerns are, we'll start by exploring the challenges on parents and carers in the digital age. Modern children have never known a time when they couldn't connect to the entire world via the internet. In fact, they probably spend more time online than anyone else, or certainly more usually than us, the parents. So let's dive in and help us as parents understand the landscape a bit better. So just while I'm talking, I'd like you to take a moment to think about why you're here today. What are your concerns with children being online? So take a minute to think about your biggest concerns you're facing right now with keeping your children safe online. And it would be great if you could pop some of those concerns into the chat to share with Annie and myself. So what might be some of the things that you're concerned about keeping your children safe? Are you thinking about how much screen time they have and controlling what content they see? Are you concerned about issues like gaming online? What is it that has sort of prompted you to be here today? Now, when Internet Matters asked this question, they got a wide range of answers. And here are some of them. These are some real quotes from other parents from a recent focus group that demonstrates the specific issues that parents are telling us that they're facing. So you're not alone. Many parents, many of us share the same worries and are searching for help. In order to stay engaged, it's a good idea to follow your children's social media accounts and discuss anything you think isn't appropriate for whatever reason. For example, if you've got a child in year 6, they may already be interested in Instagram. Loads of families have been using TikTok more and more and more, especially since the COVID-19 lockdown the past couple of years. It's become a platform that many people have discovered, and it seems children generally are more likely to want to be on YouTube than on TV, and often watch YouTube and don't even look at the TV. Everything's on YouTube. So with so many concerns out there, this session will offer some tips on how to positively approach these. But the internet's a vast place, right? So whilst some parents might approach these concerns by restricting or limiting access to the internet, it might not always be the best approach. So being online is part of everyday life. The internet has become prevalent in our daily lives and that of our children. Children will be online from an early age, and we can limit how often they go online, but it will happen. Ask yourself how old you were when you got hold of this kind of technology and how we approach technology. It certainly wasn't around when the internet wasn't around when I was a child. So what's it like for kids today? So we often, Dr. Linda Papadopoulos often talks about parents experience most things before their kids have. So they rely on that history to teach their children. But tech is an area these usual rules don't apply. Have you ever experienced your child knowing how to do something online before you do and almost teaching you how to do something? I know my child will teach the grandparents how to do things on their phone. So perhaps this is one of the reasons why so many parents struggle with the thought of keeping safe online. And the pace of technology, it's so fast, isn't it? When Pokemon Go came out, it reached 45 million people within just a few days. Fortnite was launched in 2017. It gained 125 million players in less than a year. So this technology, these fads, these games, these things kids are interested in come along quickly and grow very quickly. The pace is so fast. Things move so fast in our connected world, which is why there's a tendency to think to limit access to tech can be good, but tech can actually be an amazing force for good. Thanks, Anne, for just seeing your comment. Your fear is they would see something that's inappropriate for their age group. Yeah, I totally get that. We will cover all of these issues as we go through. But let's just focus first on tech being an amazing force for good. We don't want to stop our children from using it. We can often forget the positive side to tech, and we should embrace the positive things and reinforce them. We want to embrace the opportunities available for our kids out there to use tech. They can get a wealth of information for learning and homework. I know schools I have experience with actually direct children for resources online for their revision. There's loads of interactive tools, there's games that can aid learning, some of which can be done collaboratively with us as parents. What about freedom of expression, finding a voice and finding role models, positive role models, audiences, and also the ability to champion causes? So from starting a blog to following their favourite artists on Instagram, the internet can be a great way for aspiring creatives, young people, to get started. However, the internet remains a complex place and it wasn't built intentionally for children, and it isn't as regulated as other children's services are. So we should see tech as an enabler, but also with so much power comes more responsibility and the need for better understanding of how we're using it. So again, I'd like you to just have a think. Can you take a moment, pop in the chat? What are the sorts of things that you think your children are doing online? What sorts of things are they doing online? How do you monitor what they're doing online? And do you feel you have a complete handle on what they're doing. Maybe it's things like gaming, streaming, connecting with friends. What are your children actually doing online? So let us know what you think they're up to. It's pretty clear today that children are growing up in a very different world compared to our generation. And I'm sure many of you will have a firm grip on what your children are doing online, but here's a few examples of what they might be doing. So 26 times a day is how often the average child posts on social media. 62% of children aged 11 and 12 have a social media profile despite the minimum age being 13. And a third of children play online against people they haven't met in person with these online games such as Fortnite. Average daily screen time for children is 3 hours, 15 minutes a day. So we can see it is a big part of their lives. And it's therefore imperative that we get involved in our children's online activity and guide them through it safely. So we are going to go through some of the common areas that children come up against when they are online, when they're browsing online. So we just got a quick pause. I know we're still quite sort of near the beginning of the session. I do have a quick pause for questions. Let's slurp of water. Okay, Annie's letting me know there's no questions so far. That's fine. If you do have any questions, we do have another break later on in the session and also at the end. So just pop them in the chat and we're happy to help where we can. So we're going to define the risks, address your concerns and look at some practical steps and useful tools to help you. So first of all, let's just look at the key risks that we want to tackle. Are these any of the things that you worry about? These are things that parents worry about. We're going to go through each of these areas to give you some context and provide you with some tools that you can go away with and use today. But most importantly, we're going to help you get the conversation started with your children. So let's just jump straight into the first of the risks, screen time. And we will cover cyberbullying, online grooming, phishing, inappropriate content, and scams through this session. Screen time, it's a term I think I've used quite a lot as a parent. Screen time can offer your children opportunities to learn new skills at the touch of a button, but too much of it can have a negative effect on their well-being. We're all aware of the pros and cons of engaging through their devices. I mean, I think as adults, we think about our own screen time as well. So let's just take a look at how we can approach our concerns. Too much screen time can impact your sleep. Sleep cycles are affected by blue light from screens, which tricks our brain into thinking it's still daylight and makes it difficult to sleep. Too much screen time can impact your behavior. So we're creatures of habit. So it doesn't take long to get used to glancing at your smartphone 150 times a day and, oh, where is my smartphone? We automatically do it. We do it without thinking on autopilot. Too much screen time can impact brain development. So screen-based entertainment increases the central nervous system arousal, which can amplify anxiety. Millennials are apparently more forgetful than older generations. They've outsourced their memory to Google, GPS, calendar alerts. Columbia University found that when people know they'll be able to find information online easily, they're less likely to form a memory of it. So we understand the issues, but how do we proactively deal with this? So this is referring back to lockdown. We are fortunately out of this situation now, but the lockdown situation naturally led to higher screen time for a lot of families. Schooling was done online, socializing, exercise, entertainment, everything shifted online. So not all screen time is created equal, and a balanced digital diet is one that encourages creativity, learning and connection with family and friends. So using the internet with purpose is a good thing. So in order to maintain a healthy balance, we need to remember that not all screen time is equal. So researching for homework, FaceTime with teacher, learning online, connecting with family, This is all good, but it's important we get a healthy balance. Ensure our children are being safe by setting up parental controls, because they will be spending more time online. Let's make sure that we're in control of what they're actually looking at. So we would, if in the lockdown situation, we did sort of suggest relaxing screen time rules, because it's okay people were online more during lockdown, but it was still important to set some screen time limits using the tools in this section. And the tools that we're going to look at, we can use in every day to set screen limits for our children. So Google Family Link is a tool that helps you to balance screen time. You can use Family Link to temporarily lock your child's device at different times of the day. So an example of this is bedtime. So set a bedtime routine which locks your child's phone while they go to sleep. Homework or dinner. Lock devices immediately so they can focus on other activities like studying or spending time with the family. You might decide the right amount of screen time for your child depends on what they're watching, playing, or learning. And you can use Family Link's activity reports to see which apps your child is using the most. This is a great tool. I've used this. It's one of my child's pet hates for Family Link, because bedtime, you can't use the phone anymore. It's locked. Sorry, you'll have to read a book, go to sleep. So this is a great tool, but if you feel like you'd like to have them to have more control in a game-like experience, here's another. This is another really good one. Great for adults as well as children. This is more of a game-like approach. Apps like Forest, which build beautiful forests the longer you stay off the device. So the longer you're not using your phone, the more trees that you will grow. And I, in fact, have had a competition with my child saying, well, my forest is growing better. So the competition aspect's been quite good. Other examples include RPact. That's free and it works on iPad and iPhone to turn on and off access to screens. So these apps are incredibly helpful in building the right attitude and behaviour towards their devices. But how do we approach this matter with our kids? Let's have a look at some tips. How much time your child should spend using their device is up to you. There's no universal right or wrong time, but there are ways to help set limits when you want to. As I mentioned before, not all online activities are created equal, so take time to assess how particular activities your child is doing can help or hinder their development as they grow. Be the role model. Whatever behaviour you want your child to have, set the example. We can't be sitting on our phones and then telling them they can't use their phones while we're on our phones all the time. We need to set an example. So be the role model. Encourage alternative activities. Can they take something else up? It could be as simply picking up their favourite book or magazine, or going outside to play a game or visit a friend. Can there be time used in a different way where they're not on a screen? What about getting the whole family to unplug and play? Play a game, do a jigsaw puzzle, go for a walk. Everybody unplugs. Everybody's on the same playing field. Communal activities are great. Agree on an appropriate length of time they can use on their device, and maybe consider a reward they can get to get it back. I think if this is done in a collaborative way, what do you think? How much time do you think? Do you think you're on your screen too long? I mean, if they say no, we don't have to lead them into agreeing a suitable time. But if we can do this collaboratively, it's more likely to be effective. And encourage critical thinking. So agree on an appropriate length of time and manage it. Focus on the types of activities that children are doing online is essential. Obviously, if they're working, it's different to if they are spending 5 hours playing Fortnite or on TikTok. So more experts suggest we should focus more on what children are doing online and less on how long they are online. So it may be a question of having a conversation about what actual apps and activities are appropriate for a certain amount of time and when they should be done. So let's have a look at what these children might be viewing on their devices, something a lot of people are concerned about. Ant, you just mentioned this before, your fear is that they would see something inappropriate for their age groups. And sometimes your child may stumble upon unsuitable websites or apps or content by accident. They may be on apps they've downloaded to their phone or through links they've been sent by their friends or chatting to others online, or even through inter-device communication such as Bluetooth or Apple's AirDrop. So let's have a look at some of the types of content that your children might come across. So these are some of the examples of inappropriate content that causes concern. Pornographic material, sites encouraging crime, racism, eating disorders, suicide, images of violence or cruelty, gambling, unmoderated chat rooms, content containing swearing. There are many different types of inappropriate content, and your children's exposure and reaction to it will depend on their age and maturity level. It's extremely difficult to monitor what your child is viewing, as they can access this material through any internet-enabled device, including their mobiles or tablets. And it's very difficult. A child's curiosity is a delicate issue to manage. Let's look at some of the programs out there that are raising awareness of this. So here's some tips on how to protect children from inappropriate content. First up, conversation within the family is a great place to start. A family agreement where you can start talking about boundaries. So I've talked before about talking. It does come back to this, a lot of communication and agreement and valuing and letting the children understand rather than just dictating, understanding why we're doing what we're doing, why we're having these conversations. It's also good to give your child strategies on how to cope with anything upsetting that they do see online. So, for instance, it could be, right, if you see something, turn the tablet screen down immediately and come and find an adult who's going to remedy the situation by dealing with it, by getting rid of the content. Or you put your phone down, come and find me. How can they deal with it? What strategies, what actions are they going to take if they see something that makes them feel uncomfortable? So as soon as your child starts using the internet, you should begin to talk about what they might find there regularly. It's not just a one conversation and forget about it. I'm regularly having conversations with my child about content, what to do, what to see, what's appropriate, what's not, and keeping those communication lines open so that they feel they can come and talk to me if they do see something that makes them feel uncomfortable, or they don't understand, or that's upset them. We have to help them understand that sometimes they might come across things that they'd prefer not to see, or that you'd prefer they didn't see, or that might upset them. It's really important that they can come and talk to an adult about it. Think before you click. This is about helping your child to understand that clicking on pop-ups or links in unsolicited emails that offer things that are too good to be true and extremely tempting to them might end up in them accessing content that they didn't intend to see. So the best strategy for this is to teach them to ignore pop-ups. Don't go near the pop-ups, and you can also block pop-ups in your browser settings. So these things that can be quite tempting and lead you down a rabbit hole, don't click on anything that pops up and is enticing you to. This is supervise if you can is more appropriate for younger children, I would say. If you can try and be in the same room as your child when they're online, that way you can keep an eye out for what content they are accessing and celebrate the wins. So if you see them accessing something really educational and great, yeah, it's fantastic. What useful content this is, what value this is giving you. As you observe your child online, praise them when they are using the internet in a responsible and valuable and constructive way, the ways we talked about earlier. If they're older kids, take time to convince them that you'll respect their privacy, but will still be monitoring their online actions. I promise you should try and uphold. So it is more difficult with teenagers to younger children with their phones in their rooms, but they need to be aware that you're still going to be monitoring what they're up to. Remember, the internet remains a complex place and it wasn't built for children, and it's just not as regulated as other children's services. So pre-installed parental controls are available for most devices. Long gone are the days when a single parental control utility on the family PC was sufficient for keeping your kids safe and productive. There may have been in the past one family computer and you had some parental settings and everything was safe and secure. Today, kids have got all kinds of internet connected devices, and our parental control systems must keep up. So as I mentioned before, the average age for a child to get a phone is age 8 to 11 years old when they get their first smartphone. So we need to be clear on how we can protect them as much as we can from coming across inappropriate content. So starting with these devices, once you've bought a new device for your child, have a look at the manual that came with it, as these normally contain some information and a step-by-step guide on how to install parental controls. Many smartphone manufacturers have a setting to help you. Apple recently announced the new screen time feature for the iOS 12. iOS now has a way of scheduling screen time and seeing what children are doing online. Device controls cover a variety of functions, usually restricting access to specific features and functions that exist on the device. If getting parental control coverage installed on each of your family devices starts to seem too difficult, think about the features that are available through your broadband providers. Sorry, I'm getting all tongue-tied this evening. It must be because it's Friday. So your broadband provider may well have filters available to you. So we've got here BT, Sky, TalkTalk, Virgin. They have filters to limit the inappropriate content a child might see. Now, normally, these are controlled via an app and set to different levels for different devices. So it's definitely worth exploring with your broadband provider what options are available to you and how they can help you with this so that you are controlling it at the actual Wi-Fi access level in the property rather than individually on each device. We've also got tools available at a website level, such as Google Safe Search. So when Safe Search is on, it blocks explicit images, videos, and websites from Google search results. So on certain websites and internet platforms, such as Google and iTunes, you can switch on a family-friendly filter that should block any content unsuitable for children. On YouTube, there is YouTube Restricted Mode and YouTube Kids. So they won't be able to view any content that is inappropriate for their age. These protections are much more useful for very young children, as older kids will figure out how to turn the filter off if the curiosity gets the better of them, and then they want to look at things they're not supposed to. So it can be more difficult with the older children. Outside of these sessions on web platforms, you should also consider web browsers you use. So, for example, if you use the Google Chrome browser, which is available as a free download, there's a feature that lets you create different account profiles for supervised users and managers, which will give you control over how your children use the browser and use the internet. So Google Safe Search is a really good feature to use if they're actually searching on Google. It will provide you with the most relevant results for your search. When it's off, it might include explicit content. So ensure that it's switched on if your children are using it. And we've picked out a small selection of tools to help you here, but there are many others to consider. So let's just take a quick recap. YouTube Kids app. It's a specialized video app for children. It's tailored towards children with specially curated content, parental controls, and filtering. YouTube Kids is the first Google product built from the ground up with kids and families in mind, and it offers a more contained YouTube experience for kids. The content is generated by YouTube creators, but uses the power of Google systems to try and filter out content that's inappropriate for children. So we've got parent-approved content. It'll enable you to set time limits, block or flag content, and we can also review our child's watch history. So check your child's smartphone settings. Set boundaries for your child before they get their first connected device, whether it's a mobile, tablet, laptop, console. Once they have it, it can be more difficult to change the way they use it and the settings. Use parental controls on your home broadband network. So if you're on a broadband provider, you'll have the option to turn on content filtering, block adult material. Just remember, this doesn't mean all the bad stuff is blocked. No filter is fully effective, so you do need to remain vigilant. And safe search, as I've just discussed. Remember, services like Facebook and YouTube have a minimum age limit of 13 for a reason. Don't bow to pressure. Talk to other parents in the school to make sure everyone is in agreement. These tools are there to provide safety, and you can find out more about these parental controls at internetmatters.org/parental-controls. So these tools are all about online safety, but let's look at another very challenging area for parents to manage their kids' safety, which is cyberbullying. We all know bullying makes people feel helpless, no matter how old you are. And the internet and social media have changed the way that children experience bullying. Bullying's changed as the digital world encourages more children to take to social media and anonymous messaging apps to share experience and manage relationships. There are differences between cyberbullying and traditional face-to-face bullying in that it doesn't just take place at school or in the street. It can encroach into the home as children spend time online using their phones, tablets, or computers. Cyberbullying is often an extension of face-to-face bullying. It rarely happens in isolation. And because it's a new form of bullying, many parents aren't familiar with it. One of the biggest differences between cyberbullying and face-to-face bullying is that it can be hard to get away from. Young people can be bullied anywhere, anytime, even when they're in the safety of their own home. So with cyberbullying, hurtful comments and images can be shared multiple times. The perpetrator has a degree of anonymity. It is difficult to police. And online, a vast audience can be reached in a matter of seconds. The fact is, more children spend time online. The more times children spend online, the more chance they have of having a negative experience at some point. About half of all cyberbullying comes from someone known to the victim. But what should you look out for? Be aware if your child stops using their electronic devices suddenly or unexpectedly, their behaviour has changed. They may be nervous or jumpy when using their devices or becoming obsessive about being constantly online. They may have a reluctance to go to school or take part in usual social activities. So it's important to know what to look out for, and just as important to know how to have a conversation about it. And as a note, 1 in 8 12 to 15-year-olds say they've been bullied on social media. Children aged 12 to 15 who spend more than 10 hours a week on social media are twice as likely to say they've been bullied through this platform. Are you familiar with the different forms of bullying? You'll hear various different words in the context of cyberbullying, so it helps to know what each of these means. So harassment, this is targeting an individual or group with persistent and offensive messages which could develop into cyber stalking. Outing means publicly sharing personal, private, or embarrassing information, or maybe photos or videos about someone online. Trolling is deliberately posting provocative and insulting messages about sensitive subjects or inflicting racism or misogyny on an individual. Catfishing. This is about stealing someone's profile or setting up a fake profile to lure people into starting an online relationship. Roasting is ganging up on an individual online and sending offensive abuse until the victim seems to crack. And then griefing is abusing and angering people through online gaming. So if your child is affected by cyberbullying, there's lots of places to go for more help and advice, fortunately. A few do's and don'ts. So if you become aware your child is being cyberbullied, there are a number of things you should aim to do straight away. So do find out why. Try and establish the facts around the incident and keep an open mind. Talk it through. Talk about the blurred line between uploading and sharing content because it's funny or might get a lot of likes versus the potential to cause offense or to hurt somebody. Teach by example. So model and encourage positive behavior in your child and praise them as they take this on board. And above all, help your child learn from what has happened. Think about what you could do differently as a parent or as a family and share your learning with other parents and carers. Few don'ts we have here as well. So don't get upset. It's maybe easier said than done, but stay calm when discussing it with your child and try to talk with other adults to work out any emotions you have about the situation. Don't ignore it. So take the situation seriously and don't blame someone else, but don't condone it. If your child was cyberbullying in retaliation, you should tell them that two wrongs don't make a right, and it will just encourage the bully's behavior. Don't take away their devices. This could actually make the situation worse and encourage them to find other ways to get online that you might not know about. It's also important to mention that nobody likes to think of their own child, that their own child could be a cyberbully, but young people can sometimes be drawn into this behavior without realizing the impact of their actions. So we do need to be aware of on that side of the coin as well. Online grooming is known as such. Grooming is a word used to describe people befriending children in order to take advantage of them for sexual purposes. This can be a particular tricky area to speak to your children about. So let's understand, first of all, some of the things to look out for. So what should you look out for? It's easy to pretend to be someone else on the internet. So children can sometimes end up having conversations with people whose real identities they might not know. And online grooming can be hard for parents to recognize because it can happen when children are at home. Also, groomers may specifically warn children not to talk about it, keep it a secret. So online groomers, they're not always strangers. In many situations, they've already met them through their family or social activities, and they use the internet to build rapport with them. Sometimes children don't realize they've been groomed. They think the person is their boyfriend or their girlfriend. It will also depend on your child's age and maturity level. Inappropriate content includes information or images that upset your child, material that's directed at adults, inaccurate information or information that might lead or tempt your child into unlawful or dangerous behavior. So look out for the children being secretive about who they're talking to online. You'll be able to tell, again, this change in behavior. Perhaps they'll start using sexual language you wouldn't expect them to know. Perhaps when you come near their device or the computer, they switch screens. It's important to know how to have a conversation about it. So a conversation starter could be a good way to say you've read a story about something happening and ask them if they know of any of their friends who've experienced anything similar. Grooming can be a tricky subject to talk about. So here's an example of a conversation starter. Hey, I read a story about an adult pretending to be a child online. Do you know if any of your friends have experienced anything similar? So talk about the risk. Make sure your child knows that not everyone online is who they say they are. Make sure they come to you if anyone they don't know asks to be friends with them. Have some agreed rules. So tell your child they should never share personal information about themselves to a stranger online. Tell them they must never share pictures of their body online, and they must never meet up with anyone they've met online. And make sure you stay engaged. From time to time, review their social media together. Sit down together and have a look at which networks they're using and how. You or a family member might want to be their friend online to ensure they're making sensible choices. And if you are friends with them online, watch and observe rather than take part. So sit in the background, but you're aware what's going on. I'm sure many of you will have a firm grip on what your children are doing online, but here are a few examples. So So thinking about updating the privacy settings. The best way to deal with grooming is to prevent it happening by making sure your child is well informed and using the privacy settings on social networks, and know that they can talk to you if they feel unsafe or worried. It's really important to update privacy settings on all your social media accounts, on all your child's social media accounts, and let them know where to turn to for help. Start the dialogue with them early and teach your children how to be safe online. The minimum age for most social networks is 13. If you've got any concerns about your child or someone else's child, then you should contact CEOP. And the address for that is ceop.police.uk/safety centre. I'm sure Annie can share that with you. You've also got Childline that your children can turn to talk to if they want to talk to an adult who isn't yourself. And the Internet Watch Foundation has a lot of advice available to you as well. But do make sure these privacy settings are updated, and we can shed more light on the importance of protecting our information online by looking into privacy and identity fraud. So this is an issue for adults, and just like adults, children may be at risk of having their online identity stolen and misused. It can be difficult to maintain a child's privacy as they might not understand what information is safe to share online or what default privacy settings are on the websites and devices they're using. So first of all, we need to understand some of the things to look out for. So you might start to suspect your child's identity has been stolen if they suddenly get a bill for something they haven't ordered. Maybe they'll start getting emails from an organisation they don't recognise. They might receive letters regarding government benefits or tax payments. They may mention this to you. This could be an indication that your child's identity has been stolen. If a child's identity is stolen, it may not be noticed for many years and could in some cases lead to a child being the victim of blackmail, grooming, or bullying. So it's great for your child to build relationships and share interests, but it's also important so they understand as well how valuable their identity is, how they need to protect it. But how can we protect our child from identity theft? So first up, let's check their online privacy settings. Go through the privacy settings with your child for every social networking site and app they're signed up to, and agree with them what they'll share and with whom. Check their device settings. So check the privacy settings on their smartphones and tablet devices. Things to look out for are whether they're set up for location services, sharing of contacts, photos and calendars, what Bluetooth sharing have they got set up, what microphone and video access have they got set up, and also advertising settings. So go through the settings on the phone. And if you're not sure, because it can be quite daunting looking at these settings, there is always help. Google can be a great resource to help you understand for each device you're using what settings you need to set up to fully protect your child as much as you can. So there is a section, CR section on the safety pages of main devices. So there are safety pages for each of the main devices. Find out what's already out there. So search your child's name in several search engines, see what information and photographs are public. You can use platforms like DeceitMe to check their online exposure. And take action and go incognito. So check websites on which they appear to remove inaccurate comments or photographs. When they're using a public computer, teach them to use incognito browsing. If your child's identity has been stolen, be sure to tell them any affected websites about the problem and get your child to log in and change their password immediately. That's the very first step. Okay, just quick pause for questions. So, Ant, would you recommend investing in a VPN to prevent this? Even using a VPN, it's important to ensure all the settings on your child's devices are enabled. It can give you a level of anonymity, but still, can you make sure that your child, when they're outside of the home on other devices, public computers, are still executing best practice. So whilst that level of anonymity can be achieved, we've got to be able to ensure that our child still has these other protections in place. But it's absolutely not going to be a bad thing to do that at all. So talk about online safety with your children. Building digital resilience in children needn't be overwhelming, but we do have a responsibility as a parent to tackle this head on. It's a new responsibility. It wasn't something my parents had to deal with, but it is important now that we have an approach to this. Good enough parenting is key to teaching digital resilience, being consistent and always aiming to do the best, but also accepting that perfect is impossible. So we've got some tips on how to positively have a conversation about how to build an open dialogue with your child about what they do online. Unfortunately, we can't protect them from everything, no matter how many of these tools we use. So let's start with conversation. We need to build an approach to create a great environment for kids to talk about online safety. It's important not to bury our heads in the sand about technology. When parents say, I don't do social media, I don't get Snapchat, it's akin to leaving your kids just across a busy road without training. Okay, off you go. So parents are missing golden opportunities to keep children safe and informed. Experts recommend we become digital mums, digital dads, and navigate the online world alongside our children. Do you understand the apps they're using? Are you familiar with them? We can understand together. If we know what they're using, it's better and easier for us to have a conversation. Conversations about digital safety should be a two-way street as well. So we should talk about the benefits and the dangers in balance. That's the best way to keep the dialogue open. So these are 4 simple ways to help build the conversation on online security. Talk early, talk often, choose the right time, open up and share too, and create a safe space. 3 things to teach you. Well, 3 things. We've got a 5-point plan for parents, but the 3 main things we want to teach our child are to be inquisitive, but also challenge what they see and hear online. We want them to always feel they can speak openly, honestly, and freely to us. We want them to be well-versed and confident in the technology and apps they use so that they can stay in control. And we want them to be educated about the different challenges that they're going to face as they get older. So there's a purpose to this 5-point plan for parents. We should understand the risks, but remember they are risks, not harm. We need to keep risks in proportion. The UK is one of the safest places for children to be online. We need to communicate regularly and consistently. We need to put in place helpful tools and settings and have a family agreement. And as our children grow, we need to help them to develop coping strategies that foster resilience. So this webinar is available till around about lunchtime, I think tomorrow, so around just under 24 hours. So going back and looking at some of those tools and settings that are mentioned on the slides that I've talked about, going back and looking at some of the risks that there are there, understanding what they are, remind ourselves what they are, but keeping it in proportion, remembering that there's a lot of good out there with tech. There's a lot of value that it can bring to our children's and our own lives. So it's about understanding the risks, but keeping it in proportion, not making it become a really scary place, but making it somewhere where, okay, we're going to have a conversation about the sorts of things you might find, the sorts of things you might see, and having a plan of action, coping strategies on how to deal with these things if they come across them. There are some additional resources to help keep your child safe online. We've got Be Internet Legends, which I will cover in a moment, Family Link, which I've mentioned, the Google Family Link. I've used that very successfully in able to be able to know what my child's doing online on their phone and setting those lock times for screen time. CEOP to report anything that needs reporting in terms of grooming, anything dangerous. Childline, available for children to call if they want to speak to an impartial adult separately outside of the family or the people they know. The Internet Watch Foundation has many more resources. And then internetmatters.org, who we're running this webinar in partnership with today, also has a lot of resources on their website that can help you and your child stay safe online. So Be Internet Legends, I mentioned just before, what is it? Okay, so Be Internet Legends has been developed by Google and Parent Zone. And it's free, first of all. It's an online safety program based on 5 pillars. And these pillars are used to teach children how to navigate all aspects of their online presence in a way that's respectful for others. It's been developed for Key Stage 2 pupils, so kids age around 7 to 11, primary school kids. And it's kind of a game approach, so it's very accessible, it's good fun. The main pillars that it covers, number 1 is to be internet sharp. So think before you share. We're teaching kids here that good and bad news travels fast online, and children can sometimes find themselves in tricky situations very quickly with lasting consequences. So this talks about what they can do to prevent this. And the answer is to understand how to share smartly with people they know and those that they don't. Be internet alert. This, we're talking about people and situations online aren't always what they seem. Internet Legends helps children understand the difference between what's real and what's not online. Be internet secure, protect your stuff. This is about personal privacy and security, and teaching children the importance of this online, just as important as it is in the real world. Keeping valuable information safe helps avoid children damaging their devices and their reputations and relationships. Be internet kind is about respecting each other. So here we're talking about the internet amplifying everything. Good things seem more exciting, bad things seem much worse and can hurt a lot. A great rule to live by online as well as offline is to treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. Children can have a positive impact on others and stop bullying in its tracks by refusing to join in. So it's talking all about kindness. And then final pillar is be internet brave. So when in doubt, when children come across something they're not sure about online, they should feel comfortable talking to a trusted adult. It's about being brave. It's okay to go to an adult. It's a good thing to do. This is what we want you to do. Adults can support this by showing they're open to talking, even about difficult or embarrassing things at home and in the classroom. So the more open we can be to the messages that our children are telling us, the more likely they are going to communicate with us about things that we might want to be aware of that they've come across online. Another great resource is Interland. It's an adventure-packed online game that makes learning about internet safety interactive and fun, just like the internet itself. So it helps children to practice skills they need to be confident online explorers in this free game. And in this application, children will help their fellow internauts combat badly behaved hackers, phishers, oversharers, and bullying by practicing the skills that they need to be confident. And this helps parents to get involved through activities and encourage their children to learn about the internet in a fun way. So I'm sure Annie will share the link with you, g.co/be-internet-legends/parents, which you will be able to access and have a look at it yourselves. Have a look at yourselves, get familiar with what's going on, and then share it with your children. And often introducing this and children can often think that it's boring to them talking about being safe online. We know it's important and really crucial when we're online. So introducing it in this fun way enables them to be educated without actually realizing the messagings that they're getting. So this can be a really nice way, particularly for younger children, to start understanding how they need to act and behave online in order to stay safe. You may have found that your children hear and get online safety talks from school. Schools do get resources, a lot of resources. So the resources for teachers include lesson plans, stickers, posters, activities, which Parent Zone and the PSHE Association have developed. There are also many interactive school assemblies run across the UK. Your child may have come home and talked to you about them, maybe ask them what they found out at school, and this could help you lead into a conversation. Often schools will inform parents beforehand that they're going to have this type of assembly. So find out what your school is actually talking to your children about so that you can then carry the conversation on at home. Afterwards, it can be a really nice way to work in partnership with the schools to get that messaging across and back up the school's messaging. We're saying, absolutely, this is important. Did you know about these resources? And have we looked at your privacy settings? And have you had a look at the Internet Legends or anything? It's a really good way to get started. Schools also have access to the Interland online game that teaches the key lessons of internet safety through these 4 fun, challenging games. So you may find that your child has been introduced to Interland already at school, and there's no reason that they can't play and enjoy the same application at home. Okay, I'm just having a look. Any questions? Check in with Annie. Okay, so there are no questions so far. I've got a couple of minutes left. So if you do have any questions, just pop them in the chat. Anything that you've found useful today that you think you might have a look at using after the session. So what are your next steps? Have you found out any tools or resources that you might want to explore with your child? Are you clear on how to handle any areas? Is there a conversation that you are going to have with your child about their safety? Perhaps you're going to explore Family Link or Be Internet Legends. Perhaps you're going to sit down with their phone and look at the privacy settings and application settings. Let us know what your next steps are after this session today. But that's us really wrapped up with content. So thank you so much for joining us on your Friday afternoon. We do love to hear your feedback. So there is a feedback form at goo.gle/digital garage feedback. We do have other webinars that are upcoming, and I'm sure Annie will share the link in the chat, but there's also a link in the description below. We have webinars about digital marketing, about online safety, about careers. So do explore our other future webinars that are coming up. You can also learn 24/7 on the Google Digital Garage website, where there's all sorts of training available for free. And do let us know in the feedback if there's anything that you particularly enjoyed today, if there's anything you found that you've kind of discovered that you hadn't known about before, and any feedback about the general webinar overall. We do love to hear your feedback. But thank you all very much for your input today. Thank you for your questions, Ant. It's been a pleasure. I can't see any other questions that have come in so far, so I will wrap that up. I hope you have a wonderful Friday evening, and we hope to see you again at another Digital Garage webinar soon. Thank you.